Today I have with us Tarla Makaeff. I think I said that close to accurate there, right, Tarla? I am
Yes,
really
yes.
excited to have her here today. This is an interesting situation in that this is the first time we've actually spoken to each other live. We feel like we know each other really well, though, and that we've been, online friends for, let's see, I guess maybe 9, 10 months now. And yet we
Some,
have exchanged text messages and voice memos to each other and messages in real time as if we were conversing back and forth, but just in that interesting way of utilizing the technology. And it's just funny that now, finally we are actually talking live, even though we feel like we've known each other. So I realized that when we were jumping on the call right before we pressed record, and I just wanted to share that with you because I don't know if any of you have ever had that experience, but it's a special experience when you realize and you connect with person in a new way, and yet it doesn't feel so disconnected that you think it may have. So that is just a little backstory. But the rest of the backstory is that Tarla and I met when we were both competing in Speaker Slam's speaking competition last fall. And that I've shared on my podcast before in a couple episodes about I shared my speech, and I also shared about my journey and that my behind the scenes of that actual experience. And that's how I came to know Tarla. So I want to share with you a little bit more about what she actually does as her profession. She is referred to as the copy queen and Beverly Hills hypnotist. She's also a best-selling author, a digital course creator, online business and life coach, and certified hypnotherapist. And that's what we're going to delve into a bit more today. She helps creative, heart-centered women start their own purpose-filled businesses online and scale their brand with copy that converts while increasing their self-love. And the self-love part has a lot to do with certain ways she coaches, and especially this aspect of hypnotherapy. So I am thrilled to have her on to talk more about that with us today so that you can help. Well, she'll tell us more about how this can help us move past events or things in our life that we may or may not be aware of that might be in the way of creating the life that we desire. So, Tarla, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it so much, Charis. Thank you.
Yes. So, anything else that I didn't say, anything that you want to share about yourself that wasn't covered in what I just said?
I think you got it. I think it's good. Yeah, it's
Okay.
good. A lot more to tell, but I think that's good for now.
Great. So, when we first connected, you actually reached out to me, and then we found we both definitely had some commonalities in prior family, experiences, traumas, in a sense. I mean, not exactly the same, but certainly relatable. And and then you've really seemed to have taken it on a life mission of continuing to heal yourself and help
Mhm.
others heal. And as I have too, that is those are two big purposes in my life and things that I'm committed to. And I really feel that you can't do one without the other. So that is what I've seen you exhibit from what I've gotten to know about you through our communications. So I first thing wanted to see, what do you have to say to share about that, about your own healing journey and or how you're continuing to do things to help yourself while also wanting to help others.
Yeah, so thanks for asking. So a little bit about my story, as you know, and for the audience, is that I lost my dad when I was a baby, when I was one. And obviously that's a trauma. So a lot of people may not really realize, but even when you're a baby, you're absorbing everything that's around you. From the ages of 0 to 8, those are our formative years. So no matter what happens in that time, like you're very aware as a child. You're like a sponge. And so that happened. And then in addition to that, I ended up losing my mom about almost 10 years ago. And so because of that, um, being an only child, being an adult orphan, it's really impacted my life. And I've had to do my own version of healing, which I've done from, a child all the way up until, currently we're always healing every day. So I'm continuing on that journey.
Thanks for sharing that. And that's right. I forgot that we had such a similar timeline with the fact of uh, when we lost our moms, because mine is coming up on 10 years this Thanksgiving. So I forgot that we had that timing in common too. Um, so tell us more about how you got into hypnotherapy, and then also like what type of hypnotherapy and what it is, because I know that when you and I were chatting and messaging back and forth, one of the things that I had asked you was, some people refer to hypnotherapy as, or one aspect of it that I think is true to some degree, but you can talk to this a little bit more, is, for instance, certain types of guided meditations that um, you're not necessary. You're very aware. You're very like sitting. You know what's going on. You're 100% present. There's no countdown. There's no like what you may have stereotypically thought of as being hypnotized. You know, that some people refer to kind of modern hypnotherapy. There's an aspect of it that's more of a looser, not so deep guided meditation. And then there's the hypnotherapy that we either have seen in movies or on TV, that's like the person's laying down on the couch at the therapist's office. They go into a deep trance, or they're up on a stage and something happens and they have no idea what's going on. And then they come out of it, or they maybe do, but it's they get into a whole nother realm. So talk to us a little bit about what really is hypnotherapy as far as you're concerned, and where these things fit in with what you're doing.
Yeah. So um, I'm so glad you brought up the movies and the stage hypnosis, because this is something that I have to really discuss because people don't know. But that's not what you'll experience in a hypnotherapy session, and people are not aware. So, these movies, there's a movie that just came out um, on, again, using a word in the title about hypnotizing people, and people get this impression that there's all this mind control involved, and so it can be scary to some, and that's absolutely not what's happening. A hypnotherapist cannot make you do anything you don't want to do. So if it's not within your moral or ethical code of conduct, you're never going to do it. Obviously, I can't tell you something that you're going to do unless you would do it out of hypnosis. Number one on that. And then regarding stage hypnosis, this is all for drama, for show. This is not what happens. You're not going to drop to the floor, nothing like that. I'm not going to get out a little hanging, dangling, clock that I'm moving back and forth. None of this that you've seen in movies and stage hypnosis is what hypnosis is, as you experienced yourself. So you took my free hypnosis
Mm-hmm.
recording audio, and it is just a natural, relaxed state. So hypnosis is something we do every day. So when you daydream, when you watch a movie, and you've kind of tuned out the outer world, when you read a book, when you're in a store and someone's calling your name and you really kind of don't hear it, you've tuned out of that and you're focused on what's in front of you, you're in hypnosis. This is something we do every day. When you've driven somewhere and it's the same route maybe you've taken to go home many, many times, and you're like, how did I even get home today? And you almost like don't remember, you were in hypnosis. So it's a very natural, relaxed state. And I'm forgetting what else you asked me in the question. I know there was another part
What
to it, but I
about
pressed
so
that.
what about the yeah, no, I did. I jumbled a couple things in there. So I'll back up. What about the guided meditation aspect of hypnosis that is, um I'm going to say, milder than what I understand you do in your actual paid practice. So can you describe that difference? That being guided meditation, that I've had mentors and people guide me, and they've described it as hypnotherapy in a sense. Where does that fall in this?
Yeah. So what you did with the, and we'll tell the listeners at the end about this free hypnosis, that was really hypnosis. So hypnosis is when, at the very beginning, we're bringing you into a hypnotic state. Now, everyone does this a little differently. I have a technique of, it's a very quick, we call this an induction. It's an eye roll. So we're getting you into the alpha or theta state, typically the alpha state. So it's a more relaxed state. Beta is the waking state. So that is the part that's different. We're getting you into that state, and then we're walking you downstairs. A lot of people know about this imagery where you're walking down, you're going deeper into your subconscious. So we're inducing a hypnotic state when you're in hypnosis. When you just listen to a meditation, maybe on a yoga app or something like that, it's not hypnosis. So and when you do the visualizations, this is more for relaxation purposes. Now, some general hypnotists will they will do something like a visualization. That will be part of the practice. But for RTT, which is rapid transformational therapy, I was trained through Marissa Peer. We are doing a more complex hypnotherapy, and in most hypnotherapists, we regress you. So if you're in a session, it's completely different than just listening to a recording. You're going back to your childhood, and with some hypnotherapists, you're going back to past life. Now, I personally don't believe in that, and it's not something that Marissa teaches, because I'm a Catholic Christian. And so it's not something I practice, but in a session, if someone does go back to past life and that's what they tell me, then we work with that. And I'm totally open to that. But I'm bringing someone back their childhood. So there's kind of two things we can address here. It's like what happens with an actual hypnotherapist in a session. And then when you're just listening to the recordings, the difference between the meditation and the hypnosis is that there is no induction, basically. You're not being induced into hypnosis. You're just going straight into the meditation. And then you're not being counted out of hypnosis at the end.
Okay. And so we'll get to how you got into it. That's the other question. We'll get there in a second. But now this is a perfect timing, I think, to share a little bit about my experience with your recording, because I did it twice earlier this week. And the first time I did it, it was first thing when I woke up, but I woke up a little early, so I was a little bit groggy. And sometimes in that moment, I'll lay on the couch grab Heidi, my dog, and we'll lay there, and I'll see if I fall back asleep or if I'm going to just relax or just snuggle with her for a little bit and then get up and move on. So I wasn't sure what was going to happen, but I thought, I just felt like this is a good morning. I'm going to do this. So what happened is I now know exactly what you're referring to. You did a certain described how we should do our eye at the beginning and to kind of get us into that state. And then going down the stairs and this whole thing. Well, I think I made it through halfway or 2/3, and then I dozed off, or sort of. I mean, I don't remember the last third of it for sure. And yet I came alert when I heard you say 4, 3, and then I was like, what just happened? So really interesting that, I mean, I would say I really felt like I fell asleep because I literally did not remember a whole chunk. However, I must have been paying attention or had something online. So I'd love for you to share with us, if anybody does, and we'll share the recording at the end, after we talk more about all this, of course. But it was certainly was relaxing, and I love the things you're saying in it. So talk to us about what happens if you fall asleep whenever you're listening to a recording like this, for instance.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So whenever you fall asleep when you're listening to a recording, which is totally fine, that's your body's way of relaxing. So you're going to sleep. I should address this. When we roll up the eyes, the reason behind that is that's what happens when you sleep, when you start to go to a REM state, and that's why. So it's the relaxed state. So if you happen to fall asleep, people ask me this question all the time. You're fine, because your subconscious mind is always listening. That's why you can go to sleep at night, and if something falls in your house on the ground, it will wake you up, because your ears are always open for business. They're always listening. And so that's what's great about hypnosis. If you, in an ideal world, right, you really are listening to it awake, but still when you're falling asleep, it's great because, there's no resistance either. You can't resist what you're listening to, but you're not going to resist it in hypnosis, because we're making all these suggestions, which is also wonderful. But you're even more malleable is the word I'm looking for when you're completely asleep. So it's great too. And the reason why you woke up at the end, and we were talking about this earlier, is when I'm counting you back up, is that you really were paying attention, you were listening. And so you responded to my suggestion to basically wake back up. It's time to get back with your day. And you were responsive. So that was awesome.
Okay, cool. And it that you just reminded me, I am a person who will often, almost all the time, fall asleep during massages, even a pretty deep tissue massage that can be that for me kind of a blissful, slightly painful, but that it releasing and feels very good to me. And yet I will often fall asleep. So a lot of these things that are meant to relax, I can go there, I guess, and that kind of go sometimes to that all the way, which, yeah, it seemed I felt very relaxed and I loved it. And there's something else I want to comment about the recording because I think it's interesting and for people who and it's all about self-love. It's fantastic what she's talking through in the recording. It'll make you feel very good. Um, your voice and tone and inflections and the way you're speaking is very different than the way you speak like right now. Can you talk to us a little bit about
Yes.
that? Like I'm sure you were trained to do it that way. It's very, I want to say maybe melodic. Is that a way to describe it? And so I just talk to us about that because they will notice a big difference and I'm sure it's intentional. I can't imagine that it's not.
Yes, it is intentional. So when you hear me now, I tend to be a fast speaker in real life and kind of very animated. And it's called a hypnotic voice. And so we're using certain tones for different reasons. So you'll experience that a lot more personally one on one in a session. At sometimes our voice will be more commanding. At sometimes it will be more monotone. Typically, it's more monotone when we're starting, and you may have noticed that. It's really to kind of bore your mind. So you're just going to tune out and start really focusing then after we go down the stairs into what I'm saying. And yes, so for emphasis on some words, we will get, like you said, more melodic. And there's a reason behind the voice, but it's also meant to relax people, so I'm not going to speak in the same quick tone. So it's just very meant to induce hypnosis. And that's really what we're doing with the hypnotic voice.
I think there's, I know some of the audience may be familiar with Joe Dispenza. He's not a hypnotherapist, and yet I know his organization and all that he does around what I think he describes as and what I would describe as meditation is uh, there's been a lot of science he's done around what works for in the voice and the things. So similarly, if anyone's ever listened to him, he sounds very different when you're just hearing him in an interview. And that, like literally the first time I listened to one of his meditations, I was like, well, I don't know about this because it was so different to me and very purposeful. I could tell, and it threw me off a little bit. But then over time, I got used to it and actually, I think I can see and understand now why it works. And so then when I heard yours being different as well from how I knew you from your voice memos, that also sprung in my mind. I was like, I know there's a reason for this. They're, this is coming from literally scientific data around what is working to change our brain so that we absorb it. Because if they just speak to us how they speak in interviews, that's not going to shift us. That's daytime zone, right? I mean, is that
Right.
okay?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Because if I talk to you like this, you wouldn't be very relaxed. I'm a fast talker, but this will not be happening in a hypnosis. It's very slow and very intentional. And, you're walking down the stairs, you're going deeper. But, that's not exactly my hypnotic voice, but we want to make you relaxed in a session so that, especially in a session where you go into regression, because you're not going to regress if you're not feeling relaxed. So it's all about making someone feel at ease and also just slowing down. We have fast paced lives, so we're always on the move and blah, 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 very quick. So we just want to relax you so that you can really connect with your subconscious mind.
That's great. Okay, so thanks for explaining that, because if this is really new to people, like if they've never listened to anyone like Joe, like I said, he's not a hypnotherapist, it's different, but just the fact of hearing this kind of melodic, different kind of thing in a recording, I think it's important for them to know what to expect. And I also hope it actually intrigues you. You know, if you're listening to this, you're like, what is Charis talking about? Why is she even bringing this up? Then, you know, you can go check it out later. But now let's circle back to what got you into wanting to learn how to do this. Did you experience it yourself first? Like what pushed you and pulled you, you know, what prompted you to get this certification?
Yeah, I'm very intuitive, so I think that's my initial response. But basically, I'm a self-help junkie, may not be the right word, but that's how I feel. I mean, I love all the self-help, personal development, and so just going back to after losing my dad, I remember being a teenager and going in Barnes and Noble and always looking at the self-help section and looking at the books and just trying to figure out answers like, why did this happen? Why did this happen to me? Why was I the kid without the dad in school? Why? And so I started like that. And then when I lost my mom, that's another trauma. And I am an only child, so I'm an adult orphan. I, have extended family, but they weren't really there for us while my mom was, I was a caregiver to her. So I felt very alone. And I was just trying to work through that. So I tried different things. I tried EMDR, eye movement
Mm-hmm.
desensitization and reprocessing for trauma, which was great. I did neurofeedback on my brain for just kind of anxiety. And I tried all these things, but when I was at my EMDR, she was a psychologist, a therapist. I don't know why. I said, I'm really interested in hypnosis. And she, um, kind of talked to me about that. And so we talked about it. And I eventually ended up hiring a hypnotherapist to try hypnotherapy. I was just always intrigued by it. And I thought, this is kind of a last stop for a lot of people. It's their last resort. When they've been fed up with everything, they'll often turn to hypnosis. It's like, well, let me just try that. That's the last stop. And that's kind of how I felt. I felt like I got healing with the others, but that this would be even more powerful. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that I was very fortunate to have an amazing mother. And what she didn't realize is my entire life she hypnotized me. She didn't even know she was doing it. I didn't know she was doing it. She said, "You're the best. You're the prettiest. You're the smartest. You're the greatest." It was like on repeat. And when I lost her, when she passed away, I felt like I lost a lot of my own self belief. And I didn't realize how pivotal she was in helping me create such a successful career, that it was her on repeat in the background, constantly telling me I'm the best, I'm the greatest, all this stuff. And so then I wanted like a recreation of that. And that's what hypnosis is. So what I love about what I do is you're speaking positivity into people. And how much negativity do we hear on the news, on social media? And so you are just having
Or
someone give
inside
you all this
our own
love and
heads. Negativity inside our own heads.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that critical inner voice that our own, yeah, our own inner bully. And so this is something that, and me, I'm human like everybody else. We all have our moments where we're doubtful or we're not speaking to ourselves in the best light, right? And this is why self-love has become a theme for me and why I've been so interested in it. I think everything starts from there, including business and mindset, and that's a whole other topic. But that is how I really got interested. And then I felt like after I got my first hypnotherapy transformation recording from a hypnotherapist, it was just a general hypnotherapist at the time before I discovered RTT. I felt like, wow, someone's like saying the words basically that my mom would have said to me. And I just felt so good to hear that again. Because sometimes, hey, we'll have a friend in passing say, I'm proud of you. But, even if you have a husband or a wife or you have that significant other, someone saying this wonderful stuff to you a lot, it's still nice to have recordings that you can put on at any time and get that love. We all need extra love. The world needs more love. And so it just was something for me that I'm like, here I'm getting that. And when I do it in my own voice now, of course, it's really even more powerful. I used to do recordings like that, and that's how I built a 7-figure career. I listened to not hypnosis, but affirmations on my way to work and back, that I was successful and I am successful as a copywriter, all this stuff. And that's how I built a 7-figure career. And now I'm utilizing it, but to the extra degree with the hypnosis aspect.
Are you saying you listen to your own voice saying those affirmations to yourself? Or were
Back
they
in, you
other?
mean with the
Yeah, when you said
Yeah, back
before.
in the day, it was. Yes, it was. I don't know where I got the idea. It was before The Secret and that movie. It was before all of that. I somehow intuitively knew, and I wanted to leave this job. And so I was a copywriter in an agency, and I bought a book, How to Make $85,000 as a Copywriter by Robert Bly, and now it's updated to 100,000. And I said, okay, this is proof that I can do that. So I said, I'm a successful copywriter earning $85,000 a year. I'm a freelance copywriter. I'm a successful copywriter. I'm earning $85,000. Variations of that. I recorded in my own voice. So there was no hypnosis. So I just want to be extra clear to anybody
Hmm.
listening.
Hmm.
Do never listen to hypnosis when you're driving. You cannot do that. This was just affirmations. And I put them on in my car in a cassette tape back in the day on my way to work and back. And I ended up leaving there within 2 weeks. I left one day. It wasn't planned. I had my freelance career develop. And within the first year, working 10 hours a week, I made very close to that $85,000. And I programmed myself.
Wow. Now I
And then it
know
became, it built up to six figures, multiple six figures, and a seven-figure business. Yeah.
that's phenomenal. I know for some of us, at least for me and some people I know, affirmations like that are a little bit of a challenge because they're easy to have part of your brain will call it out really fast, like BS, no, you're not, because in the moment you're not. Um, so uh, I've learned different ways to tweak those kinds of affirmations that I do now, for myself and for clients. So I just wanted to point that out that if anybody's tried affirmations and they didn't have it work for them, you're not alone. It works for some people, it worked for Tarla, but um, many of us, we can't get past that initial feedback, that's calling it out. And I think probably partially because she immersed herself so much in it, it was so you were so committed to it. It wasn't just a one time say it to yourself per day where you easily shoot it down. If you listen to anything that much, then it probably would override the critical voice going against, calling out that that's not true yet. So I just wanted to call attention to that because that's something that I work with with clients who will sometimes struggle with affirmations. But back to hypnotherapy. So tell us more about. Oh, I know. I wanted to ask you about the research because I know I've seen information from you that you shared with me around all the research around hypnotherapy. So, can you talk a little bit to that, even if you don't have all the data memorized? Just talk to it a little bit about how powerful it is, because I remember reading a lot of information from studies that you shared. And so, just talk to that just for a moment.
Yeah, and just going back to what you're saying, I completely agree with what you're saying about the affirmations. And I'll emphasize here that remember, I had my mom at the time who was like my own little hypnosis, person. And I also was listening to this while driving. Again, there was no hypnosis to make
Right.
that very clear. It was only affirmations, but I was doing something else. So the way that affirmations can work more for some people, if you're taking a walk, you're not really paying attention, it's in the background, you're taking out the trash, you're doing something else, and you have your earbuds in. I was driving, I was paying attention, obviously, the traffic. So if something was in the background, it was like my little fairy on my shoulder telling me something. And this is also why you want to do hypnosis, because the critical voice that you're talking about, exactly right. That's because you're in your conscious mind. In hypnosis, you're in your subconscious mind. That's why the people who have issues with the affirmations will not have that same problem with hypnotherapy. So there's that.
Okay.
Regarding the studies, yes, there are Ivy League universities like Stanford, for instance, that have done studies confirming the use of hypnotherapy. The American Psychological Association in 2020, came out with a statement really affirming hypnosis. Which was right at the beginning of the pandemic, ironically. And there are studies out there saying there was a psychologist, I believe from UCLA. I think it's Dr. Barrios is his name. And there was this huge study that he did of like 2,000 journals. And essentially, he gave percentages in terms of how many sessions you would need to go to if you went to traditional therapy versus hypnotherapy. And the hypnotherapy is 93% effective according to his study after 6 sessions, whereas with general therapy, I don't have those numbers in front of me, but it was a tremendous amount of more sessions, maybe dozens or hundreds, and it was 30% effective, or 37% according to his research, something like that. I'm a little off on the numbers probably, but I do want to say, if you do have something that is really mental health related, you certainly do need to see a therapist or a psychologist or psychotherapist. So this is not in replacement of, this is in addition to, and in some cases, some people are not candidates for hypnotherapy if there are some certain issues. So I want to emphasize there's definitely a time to see a therapist. This is just a different aspect of self-help.
Yeah, I think thank you for pointing that out, because I have done therapy for multiple decades, and it was something that I did. Like, I will also specify when I work with people that coaching and therapy are different. And um,
Yes.
when I started working with a coach myself, I was still seeing a therapist, and they would come at my issues, goals, challenges from different perspectives and from different approaches, and both were valid and helpful. And there's a reason to work with one versus another, or to work with all, at the same time, depending on what is going on in someone's life. And like you, I've explored a lot of different types of personal development and healing modalities, including EMDR I did just a few years ago. And I did find it helped me break through something. And yet it was not the end all be all. I mean, really, probably nothing is, but it's all these little pieces. And if we can find and be willing to experiment and try the different techniques, then we can see what works for us. And maybe one issue is more healed or more resolved or more let go in one, using one way, and another issue can be let go in another way. Like, I found EMDR helped me break through one thing. One breathwork session helped me break through another thing. EFT tapping helped me break through another thing. And it's just, part of it is whatever was up for me at that time, that I went for that type of technique or therapy session. But it's just timing, like, hey, I have this thing going on and I wanted to try this. And then just trusting that that was the best thing for me to process that at the time. But I really invite people to be open to try different things, because you do not know unless you try. And that's what you and I have found that's helped us not only help heal ourselves and continue to heal ourselves, because I believe it's an ongoing process, but also help others. And so I just really invite people to be open-minded, and I like to bring on different people, with the different types of techniques onto the show to bring awareness, because if we go back just even a handful of years, there's a lot of things that I wasn't aware of. And really, most of this I've learned about in the last decade, but a lot of it in recent years. And what I love is that it's being more openly talked about. In general, mental health is no longer so much a stigma about someone having something wrong with them and a minority of the population. It's now more accepted, thankfully, due to people in public, like celebrities and people that we see more often that are calling it out. And we're realizing, and the public is seeing, that they can identify with those people. Like, oh, they seem like they have their act together, and yet they're saying they had a little mental health issue or a big issue or a breakdown or whatever. They're taking care of themselves and choosing to not do something. It makes me so happy to see that all of this is being more accepted. So, anything you want to say to that? Because I know, we've seen that progression. Because I was around in cassette days too.
Yes. I say never be ashamed to get help. You have one life to live. Don't live it struggling. So whatever you need to do, like you said, any modality that works for you. Of course, I prefer hypnosis. That's what I love. But do whatever works for you. And yeah, seek out help. Don't be alone. Don't be ashamed, because this is why I share my personal story online too. And then you're so open about yours as well. And it's like, because we're going to help other people. And there are other people out there that have your same story. And if you don't share it with, at least personally, with a therapist, or however is right for you, then you're never going to know about that. But if you start sharing, privately with somebody, a coach, a therapist, a hypnotherapist, whoever, then you'll see that you're going to get so much relief and help one way or another. And it's going to be so helpful for you. So yeah, don't ever be ashamed. I mean, I've gone through tons of therapy too. I have no shame in that. I mean, I do live in Los Angeles, so people are very open here and open to all this. But hey, we've all had trauma. If you've lived a day on this earth, you've had trauma. I mean, really, like, everybody at some point has something that they have to heal. You're not human if you don't. It's not normal. Everyone has something. So I agree with you. All, take every step that you need to feel better, because we're not here forever, and you want to make the best use of your time and feel good.
Absolutely. So, anything that we haven't talked about in regards to hypnotherapy that you want to make sure that we touch on or that we learn from you today?
Well, thank you for asking amazing questions. You asked such great detailed questions. And I think just, a lot of people associate it with these stage shows, like you mentioned at the beginning, or something, casting spells and all that. And as I mentioned, I'm a Catholic and a Christian. And so trust me that for me, I'm only doing this for to help other people. And I do think that you need to be aware of who you're going to. You're entrusting yourself, right, with a person, and you need to understand where they're coming from and what their beliefs are. And obviously, like, anybody from any religion can come to me. I deal with everybody. But I just want people to know there's this super trendy culture online now, that is not is relatable to me, this kind of witch culture. And so I think a lot of people think of hypnotherapy in that way, but this is not, hocus pocus. This is therapeutic. And it's really hard to describe unless someone goes through a session. I mean, we're regressing you. So you're going through scenes in your life. There's 3 scenes typically that happened at an earlier age. It could be childhood, or it could be 10 years ago. It could be adulthood. And with that particular issue, whatever you come for me, it's people come to me for self-love, business success, or relationship success. Then let's say it is self-love and confidence. So it's scenes related to that. And that is helping you uncover why you're having this issue by going back these times something happened. And then we're rewiring those beliefs. And then you're having a transformation. You have a recording that you get that I do on the call. And then you listen to it for 21 days. And so, what people need to know is they need to be committed. They have to listen to these recordings regularly, daily, for 21 days to 30 days, I say. That's 30% of the process in RTT, and 70% is the session. RTT is different than traditional hypnotherapy because it combines psychotherapy, hypnotherapy, CBT, NLP, and neuroscience. So it's a lot more involved. But just, if you're scared of hypnotherapy, or you're not sure, you're unsure, make sure that you get the answers. Of course, if it's me, I'm happy to answer those questions on a consult. And I have a lot of information on my website and FAQs, but make sure that you're really informed if you're looking into it. And if it's something where you're just really resistant, don't do it. Because if you're already resistant, it's not going to work on you. Now, don't book a session if it's something you feel like, this is against my religion, or this is not going to be for me. I say, that's fine. Don't book it. Try something else. You have to want to do this, and you have to want to change consciously for hypnotherapy to work subconsciously.
Great point. You mentioned a couple acronyms I want to point out for people that may not know. CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy, and NLP is neuro linguistic programming. And so I just wanted to mention to people in case they were thinking you were referring to something related to cannabis, because it kind of sounds like that. Just to clarify what those acronyms are if you're not familiar to these therapy, different modalities. So yes, absolutely. If you are resistant, just wait, or don't do it. But if you're intrigued and you're curious and you feel like something's pulling you a little, I like to say we have an inner compass that can guide us, and it's like that little whisper. I mean, sometimes it'll be louder, but it's not louder in a way of like, you better do this or else, because that is more our fear voice and our inner critic and all of that. But if you've got that whisper, that nudge that's kind of like, maybe this could help me, then I encourage you to check it out. And what's great is that Tarla is got a gift for us, that I actually experienced myself, as I mentioned, a couple days this week and really enjoyed it. So, Tarla, tell us a little bit more about that and where to find it online. And the link will be in the show notes, by the way, as well.
Yeah, so I have a free pure self-love hypnosis audio recording so you can experience hypnotherapy. So I just want to let you know this is not RTT hypnotherapy. We only do that in session, but it's general hypnotherapy. So you will have a nice experience feeling all that self-love. And you can find that at my website at tarlamakaeff.com. We'll have that written because I know no one will know how to spell that. In the free gifts tab, we'll have the exact link for that. You'll see some other free gifts there as well, but the hypnosis recording is there. You just enter your name and email. It will come right off to you. You can download it and keep that forever. And you can listen to that daily for the 21 days if you really want to get the benefit, or you can listen to it daily for into perpetuity. You can listen to it whenever you need a boost. You're about to give a speech or something, you want to feel that self-love, listen to it, like Charis and I did. But yeah, I mean, the speech, but yeah, whatever. Whenever you want to listen to it, you can.
Great. And I really enjoyed it. So I encourage you to check it out. And then we'll have some other links to connect with Tarla online as well in the show notes. So you can go there. Because like me, she has a, unique spelling kind of name. So just look below and grab the link to whatever you want to go check out. Now, I always love to close our show with a quote. And Tarla has one of her favorite quotes to share with us today.
Yes. Okay. And that quote is actually from my mentor, Marissa Pierce. So she's an award-winning, world-renowned hypnotherapist. Every word you say is a blueprint that your mind, body, and psyche want to make a reality. I love that
Beautiful.
quote.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Tarla. Thank you for connecting with me in the first place many months ago, and for coming on to share with us today about what may be new for some. And I hope that it expands the audience's repertoire of possibilities, and maybe is the thing that could really help them move through something that's been holding them back. So thank you so much, Tarla, and have a great day, everyone.